They say revenge is a dish best served cold. I served mine at room temperature, in a mahogany boardroom, with 12 witnesses and a lawyer present. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me tell you how my boss tried to steal 5 years of my work, and how I made sure he'd never work in tech again. My name is Marcus Chen, and I'm a software engineer specializing in machine learning algorithms. 3 months ago, I was riding high. Today, my former boss is facing criminal charges. This is that story. It started on a Tuesday morning in March. I'd been working at Vertex Technologies for 5 years, developing a proprietary algorithm that could predict server failures before they happened. Not just regular predictive maintenance. This was revolutionary. My system could identify cascade failures across entire data centers with 97% accuracy, giving companies hours of warning instead of minutes. I'd been documenting everything meticulously, every iteration, every breakthrough, every dead end. I kept detailed logs with timestamps, stored both locally and in the cloud. Call it paranoia or just good practice. My father was a patent attorney before he retired, and he'd drilled into me the importance of documentation. My boss, Derek Vaughn, had always been supportive, or so I thought. He'd give me resources, shield me from corporate politics, and praise my work in meetings. "Marcus is our secret weapon," he'd say. I actually respected the guy. That Tuesday, I came in early to run final tests before our quarterly review. I needed to access the company's patent filing system to cross-reference some technical specifications. That's when I saw it. There, filed 2 weeks earlier, was a patent application for my algorithm. Every detail, every innovation, every unique approach I'd developed. But my name wasn't on it. Derek's was. He was listed as the sole inventor. I felt my stomach drop. I read through the entire filing, hoping maybe I'd misunderstood. Maybe it was a clerical error. But no, this was intentional. He'd even included specific breakthroughs I'd only shared with him in our one-on-one meetings, details that weren't in any shared documents yet. I didn't panic. I didn't confront him. I did what any good engineer would do. I gathered data. Over the next week, I worked in complete silence. I came in at my normal time, acted completely natural, and smiled at Derek in the hallways. But every spare moment, I was building my case. First, I pulled every email I'd ever sent him about the project, hundreds of them, with timestamps clearly showing the evolution of my ideas. I downloaded my commit history from our version control system, every single code change I'd made, with dates and times. I extracted my design documents, my handwritten notes from meetings, even voice memos I'd recorded while working through problems. But I knew documentation alone might not be enough. Corporate lawyers could argue that work-for-hire clauses meant the company owned everything, and Derek could claim he'd guided my work. I needed something more definitive. That's when I remembered the security cameras. Vertex had cameras throughout the office for security purposes. More importantly, we had screen recording software on all company computers, ostensibly for quality assurance and training. Most people forgot it was even running. I submitted a formal IT request for my screen recordings from the past 6 months, citing a need to review my work process for efficiency. It was a legitimate-sounding reason, and IT processed it without question. Within 2 days, I had hundreds of hours of footage showing me developing every aspect of the algorithm. But I still needed one more thing. I needed to know if Derek had done this before. I reached out to former employees through LinkedIn, carefully, casually. "Hey, just checking in. How's your new role?" That sort of thing. In those conversations, I'd mention I was working on patent documentation and ask if they'd ever dealt with it. 3 former engineers told me similar stories. Derek had taken credit for their innovations too. None of them had fought it. They'd just left the company, frustrated and burned out. One had even considered legal action but was talked out of it by corporate HR, who'd offered a slightly better severance package in exchange for signing an NDA. Now I had a pattern. This wasn't a one-time ethical lapse. This was systematic theft. I needed legal advice, but I couldn't afford to tip my hand. I called my father. "Dad, Hypothetically speaking, if someone filed a patent using someone else's work, what would be the best way to challenge it? There was a pause. Marcus, is this about your algorithm? I told him everything. He listened without interrupting, and when I finished, he was quiet for a moment. You need 3 things, he finally said. Proof of invention, proof of theft, and proof of damages. It sounds like you have the first 2. For the third, you need to show that his actions harmed you professionally. And Marcus, you need to do this through official channels. No confrontations, no drama. Make it impossible for them to dismiss you as emotional or vindictive. He put me in touch with a colleague who specialized in intellectual property law. Her name was Patricia Morrison, and she was exactly the kind of lawyer you want in your corner. Calm, methodical, and absolutely ruthless when the situation called for it. Patricia reviewed everything I'd gathered. This is solid, she said. Very solid. But we need to be strategic about timing. If we move too early, they'll try to bury it in corporate bureaucracy. Too late, and the patent might be approved, which makes it harder to challenge. We decided to wait until Derek's next move. We didn't have to wait long. 2 weeks later, Derek called me into his office. He had that concerned boss expression on his face, the one that's meant to look empathetic. Marcus, we need to talk about your project timeline. The board is getting impatient. They want to see results. I kept my expression neutral. The algorithm is performing beyond expectations. I can present the final results at next month's board meeting. Actually, he said, leaning back in his chair, I've been thinking it might be better if I present. You know how the board is. They respond better to senior leadership. You'll still get credit, of course. I'll make sure everyone knows about your contributions. There it was. He wanted to present my work to the board, further establishing himself as the architect of the innovation. I could feel my anger rising, but I kept my voice level. I appreciate the offer, but I think it's important that I present my own work. I can handle their questions better than anyone. His expression hardened slightly. Marcus, I'm not asking. This is how we're going to proceed. I nodded slowly. All right. I'll prepare the presentation materials for you. He smiled, relaxed again. Great. I knew you'd understand. This is what's best for your career. Trust me. As soon as I left his office, I called Patricia. He's moving forward. He wants to present at the board meeting next month. Perfect, she said. Let him, in fact, encourage it. The more public he makes this, the better our case becomes. Over the next 3 weeks, I prepared 2 presentations. One was the version I gave to Derek. Comprehensive, impressive, but with a few key technical details slightly wrong. Nothing obvious, but enough that an expert would catch it. The other was the real presentation, the one I'd be giving. The day before the board meeting, Patricia filed a formal complaint with the company's legal department, copied to the board of directors. The complaint outlined everything: the patent theft, the pattern of behavior with former employees, and the upcoming presentation where Derek planned to claim credit for my work. She also filed a provisional patent application in my name, with all my documentation as evidence. This created a legal timestamp that would challenge Derek's application. The board meeting was scheduled for 2 p.m. At noon, I received an emergency email. The meeting had been moved to the executive conference room, and several additional attendees had been added, including the CEO, the general counsel, and an external lawyer I didn't recognize. Derek must have received the same email because I saw him rush past my desk toward the executive floor, his face pale. When I walked into that conference room, the atmosphere was ice cold. Derek was already there, sitting stiffly. The 12 board members were arranged around the table, along with our CEO, Margaret Hollis, and both legal teams. Margaret spoke first. Dr. Chen, thank you for joining us. I believe you know why we're all here. I nodded. I assume you received the complaint my attorney filed. We did. And we've spent the last 18 hours reviewing the evidence you provided. Derek, would you like to explain your side of this? Derek had clearly prepared a defense. There's been a misunderstanding. Yes, I filed that patent application, but the work was collaborative. Marcus worked under my direction. In this industry, it's common for senior leaders to be listed as inventors when they've guided the development process. Stop, Margaret said. The single word cut through the room like a knife. We've reviewed the screen recordings. All of them. We've read the emails, examined the commit history, and spoken with the former employees Ms. Morrison identified. This wasn't collaboration. This was theft. She turned to me. Dr. Chen, we owe you an apology. This should never have happened. And the fact that it apparently happened multiple times without being caught is a systemic failure on our part. Derek tried one more time. Margaret, I've been with this company for 12 years. And during that time, you've apparently built your reputation on stolen work. We're launching a full audit of every patent and publication with your name on it. The external lawyer spoke up. Mr. Vaughn, we've already withdrawn the patent application filed in your name. Dr. Chen's provisional patent has been submitted with proper attribution. Additionally, the company will be investigating potential criminal charges for fraud and theft of intellectual property. I watched Derek's face go through several emotions: denial, anger, fear. Finally, it settled on something like resignation. Margaret turned back to me. Dr. Chen, effective immediately, you're being promoted to senior principal engineer with a significant salary increase. You'll also receive proper equity compensation and a retention bonus. We'd like you to present your algorithm to the board, the real version, not whatever sanitized nonsense Derek was planning to show us. I spent the next hour walking them through my work. For the first time, I was presenting to people who actually appreciated what I'd built. The questions were intelligent, the feedback was constructive, and when I finished, I received genuine applause. Derek was escorted out by security that afternoon. He didn't even get to clean out his own desk. HR packed it up for him. That was 3 months ago. Derek's facing criminal charges for fraud. Apparently, during the investigation, they found he'd been inflating his performance reports and billing personal expenses to company accounts too. When you pull one thread, sometimes the whole sweater unravels. 2 of the former engineers whose work Derek had stolen reached out after the story broke internally. They're both consultants now, and we're collaborating on new projects. Turns out, stolen ideas work even better when the actual inventors are allowed to develop them properly. The algorithm I developed is now being licensed to major tech companies worldwide. I negotiated to receive a percentage of licensing fees as part of my retention package. Last month's check was more than my annual salary used to be. But the real satisfaction isn't the money or the promotion. It's knowing that I didn't let anger make me stupid. I didn't storm into his office and yell. I didn't post angry rants on social media. I documented, I strategized, and I waited for exactly the right moment. My father was right. Revenge doesn't have to be elaborate or dramatic. Sometimes the best revenge is just making sure the truth comes out in a way that's impossible to deny or spin. Derek's LinkedIn profile now lists him as between opportunities. Mine lists me as the inventor of a patent that's changing how data centers operate worldwide. I'd say that's a fair trade. Thanks for listening to this story from the vault. If you enjoyed this, subscribe for more tales of justice, revenge, and incredible true stories. New videos every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. What would you have done in Marcus's situation? Let me know in the comments below.